All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's get into our regulars now. And I think we're starting off, I'm not sure, trending topics or question? No, into the trending topics first. So here we go, Senzo Meyiwa trial, and this continues to dominate, and it will, as this case we're starting to see gaining more and more traction, thank goodness, because it was basically all but stalled at one stage. I mean, we saw this going on forever and ever, and we just were stuck on that first witness. Well, we're moving now swiftly on, and of course the state is expected to argue in the High Court in Pretoria why it should be allowed to ask the third witness, and that's Phala Phala, who's on the stand at the moment, to point out the intruder who allegedly attacked Meyiwa. So yesterday it kind of ended almost at a crescendo where Phala basically said, I could identify the man who did it is in the court with us, or the person is in the court and I can identify. And then there was a quick stop, don't do that. This is now, we need to take this. And that, of course, is where we're going to pick up this morning. Will this person be identified or not?
I think Advocate Mshalolo, appearing for accused number 5, basically pointing out then that they feel ambushed by the state because the state had not furnished them, with some of the evidence that they wanted to enter at that point into the record and proceedings. And so the court had to adjourn because, again, as they were pointing out, the defense, to this point, there was an indication, I think, that Phala Phala, he had said that he had not attended, or that he'd attended only one identity parade, which was immediately after the incident, but subsequent to that, which would be after the arrest of the suspects, he had not been to an identity parade. So it was almost as if that is happening now. That identity parade in court, and that is, I think, that's what the defense was objecting to.
Indeed, and so this is going to dominate today. And again, I mean, I must say, it's very interesting to be watching and seeing what's unfolding in the court at the moment. So that's the Senzo Meyiwa trial, and everything around that as well is trending. Advocate Tefo, also Tumelo as well. So a lot of names from the trial also on the trending topics.
Very interesting, because if you remember, Advocate Advocate Gerry Nel. Advocate Gerry Nel, I think the one time when we spoke to him, I remember asking him whether they believed the right people were in the dock. And if I recall correctly, he said yes, but I think there was the mastermind, which is what they were questioning. So who is
the mastermind?
The masterminds behind all of this. So it was interesting that Tumelo said that he recognized one person from the accused
as the intruder.
So it's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out, and how all of these guys, the 5 accused, are linked.
Indeed. All right. Well, that continues today, so we'll see how that develops. Then a very sad trending topic. Rest in peace, Lumko Johnson, and this one also a big talking point. And just to read from a statement that came out, and this is I think either from the family or a spokesperson. I'm not too sure who releasing it, but they're just saying. It is with great sadness that we share the news of the untimely passing of our beloved Lumko Johnson Likela. They departed on the 14th of September 2022 following a short hospitalization. Lumko first entered the public realm as a young teenager on the popular SABC 1 Yo TV platform. They went on to nurture a career in television, broadcast, radio, and media at large. In their own words, Lumko was an accomplished TV and radio super producer, actor, writer, and big deal in most spaces. This is a gut-wrenching loss to the Likela family their loved ones, the LGBTQIA plus community, and ultimately to the South Africa broadcast and radio and television community. So this is pretty much so how it's saying, and they're saying that details and funeral arrangements will be shared. And just a note to the editor, and this is quite an important note, is that Lumko Johnson's declared and respected gender pronouns were they or them. So media houses, when referring to Lumko, to refer to they. So that's something that was released by, I think, the family or his spokespeople.
Yeah.
But yeah, very sad, and people reminiscing and posting photographs of Lumko and how they remember him, and or they, I beg your pardon, and of course just his history in the industry of broadcasting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very young and sad loss.
Very sad loss, that one. Right, we're moving on to Amapiano. So we spent the better part of the morning trying to make sense of this. Okay, here it goes. So from what I can gather, this is where it starts. Lady Rosa.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless
that one came
you.
from very deep.
Yeah, Dan came from nowhere. Okay.
And nowhere. Oh.
Deep and nowhere. Okay.
Thanks so much. All right. So back to Amapiano.
Yeah.
At Lady Rosa _001 tweeted, Davido brought Amapiano from South Africa 2 years ago and made it a successful genre in Africa and beyond. Wizkid is now hopping on the same genre after Davido made it a successful genre. And this is how many African artists have been benefiting from Davido's success for over 12 years. Now, then there was, of course, a response, a backlash, if you will, to that.
Yeah.
This one, DJ Maphorisa then says, in response to that tweet, Kabza and Maphorisa were the first to put Wizkid and Burna Boy on an Amapiano song, Sponono, and that was a historical moment 3 years ago. Research before you tweet. Also, it was the first time Wiz and Burna jumped on the same song together. Let that sink in.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, so there was a whole back and forth. Davido also got in on it. And Davido says, you live in response now to DJ Maphorisa. Davido says, you've never liked me. Why? I've always been good to you. Anyways, away now. Choo 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 choo. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But that was Davido's response. And then Maphorisa says, I'm not fighting with you at all, my brother. I'm just adding to the Amapiano story because it's a big story with many players. And also, this is a historical moment for South Africa. We've never had a genre blow up like this. All love, one Africa. I respect you big time. You did a lot for the culture. So that is what this is about. And of course, as you can imagine, everybody then getting in on it, and it's this back and forth. But also because you have the likes of Davido and DJ Maphorisa, you know, all talking about this.
Exactly. So it just exploded. So
it exploded.
But
But I guess, as Chimamanda says, you know, it's not a single narrative.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big story, as Maphorisa rightly points out. And therefore, it's not likely that there will just be one thread or one narrative.
Absolutely,
here.
and attributed to it. Okay, there we go. That was the research of the morning to figure out.
Hey, I did my job.
All about Amapiano and this and that and the next. Okay, so next one, Rob Hersov. Now, if you haven't seen the clip doing the rounds, it's around, it's there, it's everywhere. But we won't play the clip. We'll leave it to you to find that. But anyway, let's just kind of maybe just tell you what it was that Rob Hersov was on about. So he's a billionaire, very outspoken businessman, and you know, I suppose many call him an entrepreneur, businessman, a big funder of different things. So this is what he said. I'm not getting into details about who Rob Hersov is, but he called Ramaphosa and his cabinet of clowns is what he went on. He was speaking at an event, and he went on to say Ramaphosa is a disgrace, he is a disappointment, he is an absolute embarrassment to this country, and he should immediately resign. That man is useless, spineless failure, and it's a bit of an embarrassment that the introduction of me says that our family gave Cyril Ramaphosa the chance to step up. If I am to blame, I apologize to all of South Africa, all of Africa and the world for such a disgrace being the president of our country. So that's just a little bit of what he said, and he said a lot more as well, but that has got a lot of people talking.
Maybe we should speak to Rob Hersov to find out exactly what it means.
Yeah. Indeed, and I think that's kind of what it has to happen. And I mean, he does go on to Phala Phala and all of these things as well. But you know, it's quite a scathing clip that is doing the rounds. So yeah.
But also remember the funding of the CR17 campaign and those records that were sealed. So what is Rob Hersov saying? Is he telling us that he was one of the funders? I don't know.
Read into it what
Anyway,
you will, but
yeah.
he certainly, has I'm sure something to do with a bit of funding there. Anyway, University of Limpopo. So wow.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those stories. Once again, you know, it's easy to look at the obvious in terms of what we presented with students going on the rampage during a protest. Again, burning of infrastructure, which is totally unnecessary, by the way. And saying that does not mean that I don't understand or empathize with the students in terms of their plight. But I'm not sure about the destruction of property during protest. That is something that I think we need to talk about a little more. And we always say this when it happens, but honestly, something needs to be done here. But with that said, and let's put that aside, it is totally unacceptable that students are still waiting for their allowances. Why is this happening? Why hasn't this whole system been streamlined? And if I understand this correctly, Leanne, I think there may be a discrepancy here in terms of when NSFAS pays out and when the universities are expected to pay the students. So I think with institutions that are generally better heeled, as it were, that have more reserves, they are able to then foot that bill until the NSFAS funding comes through, and then just, you know, recoup the money from the NSFAS funds once it gets paid to the institution. But for some of the institutions who don't have those sort of reserves, I think they struggle a little more, which means the students bear the brunt of that.
Absolutely.
And something needs to be done. We cannot carry on like this.
Indeed.
And one has to feel for the students who said that they have been kicked out of their accommodation. And, you know, so if they kicked out, where do you expect them to live? What is supposed to happen? So for me, two issues here.
Definitely two issues.
They need to be resolved.
Indeed. But yeah, as you say, the destruction of property, it's hard to come to terms with that at any time, and especially at an institution of learning. All right, let's get into the question of the day very quickly. And this one, quite a long one, but I think it's just important to get those names to you in case you haven't seen them as yet. So to put it in perspective, question is, what do you make of National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Ndakula appointing former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo, former High Court Judge Thokozile Masipa, an Associate Professor of Public Law at UCT, Richard Calland, to form an independent panel of conduct, to conduct, I beg your pardon, a preliminary assessment into the Phala Phala robbery. So, yeah, we just want your views on this. We were hoping to be joined by the ATM, but unfortunately it doesn't seem that we can get them to chat to us this morning. But this, of course, as you know, was brought about by them. But this is the panel looking into it. Quite an interesting panel, to say the least.
So essentially what this panel will be assessing is whether there are sufficient grounds to look at an impeachment process of President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Indeed, and to see what they come up with. So, I mean, it's quite interesting. I mean, obviously we know Sandile Ngcobo. He, of course, is the highly regarded. He's very outspoken as well. So he's in there. And then, of course, Thokozile. Now, Judge Masipa, you probably best known for the Oscar Pistorius trial. And she went through a tough time on that one, because it was not many people were happy with how she ruled on that one, and then of course it had to go to a Supreme Court, and then she gave a lesser account. Remember, it was just, she didn't say murder, but I mean it was only 5 years, and then they increased it to 15 years. So it was quite an interesting one. And then of course there's Richard Calland, who of course is a public law academic and columnist and author. We speak to him quite a bit as well.
I mean, if you look at the names that were submitted by the various parties, at last check, I think 11 parties had submitted the names. Each party had to submit 3 names that would be up for consideration. And I would love to hear the speaker
Yeah.
on how they ultimately came
Arrived at these names,
with
indeed.
the panel, just as a matter of interest.
And I'd love to get reaction from ATM to see
Yes.
if they're happy with the panel that's been accepted. Anyway, unfortunately, we don't have anyone to talk to about this, but that
we've
is
got
it.
you.
So you got to talk to us. That's the bottom line. Anyway, looking forward to hearing from you. We've got it.